A nurse's unexplainable encounter. In my journey as a nurse, I've navigated through the corridors of various hospitals and healthcare facilities, each chapter adding layers to my experience and understanding of patient care. One particular episode, etched vividly in my memory, unfolded during my tenure at a geriatric hospital, a mere 30-minute drive from my residence. It was a setting I had grown familiar with, having previously worked with older patients. Little did I know that this stint would culminate in a story marking my second-to-last shift at that specific hospital. The scene was set during the graveyard shift, a time when the world rested, shrouded in darkness. I embarked on my duties running on negative hours of sleep, assigned to the Alzheimer's ward, a place where the threads of reality often unraveled for the patients. Despite the challenges, my presence, a young nurse in her 20s, became a beacon of familiarity amid the residents lost in the recesses of their minds. I was a connection to the present, a reminder of the everyday. Among the myriad of faces in that ward, one patient, Sarah, emerged as a poignant figure. This was our first encounter, and Sarah wasted no time sharing her unsettling experiences. She spoke of voices that echoed in the corridors of her mind and a mysterious man, dressed in black, who lurked in the shadows of her room. Another resident, sharing quarters with Sarah, sought refuge behind a closed curtain, hoping to escape the tendrils of Sarah's disturbing visions. Sarah, a sweet lady who found solace in my presence, still grappled with forgetfulness and restlessness, elements that added complexity to our interactions. The night unfolded with its own rhythm. By 9:00 p.m., a semblance of silence usually draped the ward as most patients embraced the arms of sleep by 11:00. Sarah, however, emerged as an exception to this nocturnal serenity. Distressed by the voices and the man in black, she summoned me to her room, seeking solace. I empathized with her, convinced that her vivid experiences were products of her own mind. To soothe her, I refrained from turning on the TV, respecting the other patient's need for tranquility. Holding Sarah's hands, I became a tether to reality, a reassurance that she wasn't traversing the labyrinth of her mind alone. As the night matured, time adopted an unusual pace, almost moving in reverse after the majority of patients succumbed to sleep. Amid the quiet, I found myself in the linen room, engaged in the mundane task of stocking my cart. Then came the unexpected. A sensation of a hand resting on my shoulder. It defied explanation, and my startled reaction echoed in the empty room. There was no visible presence, leaving me perplexed and unnerved. Undeterred, I pressed on with my responsibilities, only to encounter a continuation of the inexplicable. A subsequent incident found me collapsing to the floor in fear, mirroring Sarah's descriptions of a man dressed in black. The episode sent shockwaves through the ward, rousing Sarah from a light sleep. In her distressed state, she correlated my screams with the voices she had been battling, asserting that the ominous figure was drawing near. The ward plunged into chaos, prompting a swift relocation to another wing for the night. Overwhelmed and unnerved, I decided to cut short my stay, informing the head nurse the next day that the experience had left me traumatized. Despite my steadfast grip on reality, the events of that night lingered, an unexplainable supernatural occurrence that defied the boundaries of reason. It became a once-in-a-lifetime ordeal, a narrative that blurred the lines between the tangible and the inexplicable, leaving an indelible mark on my nursing journey. A night of unseen intrigue in Vermont. Before Emily and I embarked on our official romantic journey, our lives were intertwined through numerous shared moments, united by our mutual love for snowboarding. Emily's family, proud owners of a quaint cabin in Vermont, strategically positioned near Stowe Mountain Resort, became the backdrop for a pivotal chapter in our story. It was around our 10th rendezvous when Emily extended an invitation for a weekend escapade of snowboarding at the family cabin, nestled in the heart of Vermont and a 5-hour drive away. Approaching the cabin, our journey led us along a winding, secluded road, enveloped by the embrace of mountains. The landscape, peppered with occasional driveways hidden behind walls of trees, cast an enchanting aura of isolation. The scarcity of other cars and the noticeable absence of tire marks in driveways hinted at the desolation of many houses. Emily illuminated the unique circumstance of the area, where most houses were owned by out-of-state residents, mirroring her family's situation. As we cruised at a modest 30 miles per hour, she urged me to navigate with caution upon reaching a narrow trail accessible only by a trusty four-wheel drive. The trail, winding its way through the snow-covered landscape, guided us to a modest yet inviting house. Despite the absence of running water, the cabin emanated warmth, and we swiftly settled in, turning on the heat to counter the encroaching evening chill. Dinner, prepared from the provisions we had brought, filled the air with delightful aromas, setting the stage for an intimate movie night featuring the pursuit of happiness. As the night unfolded, nature called, leading me to the outhouse. On the front deck, I noticed enigmatic footprints in the snow, their origin obscured, possibly boots or the imprints of elusive woodland creatures. The trail meandered around the house and disappeared into the woods. Emily, unperturbed, suggested the possibility of encountering a black bear, a frequent inhabitant of the region. After attending to the necessities of the night, we eagerly anticipated the adventures awaiting us at the ski resort the next day. An exhilarating 8-hour snowboarding escapade culminated in a stop at a diner, followed by our return to the cabin under the cover of a pitch-black, snowy night. Back at the cabin, we kindled a fire, activated the heating, and reveled in the ambience, complemented by music and drinks. During a brief interlude, a return visit to the outhouse brought an unexpected encounter, the sound of footsteps passing by. Calls to Emily went unanswered. Upon re-entering the cabin, an unsettling darkness prevailed, and the once blaring music had fallen silent. Armed with my phone's flashlight, I traced fresh footsteps leading to the house, pausing at the front door. A fervent pounding on the door echoed, accompanied by desperate calls of Emily's name. With a sense of urgency, Emily ushered me inside, revealing the sinister episode that had unfolded. A mysterious figure had attempted to breach the sanctuary of the cabin, prompting Emily to secure the door, cut the power, and retreat into the shadows. The intruder, a silent specter, had traversed past the living room window, sending shivers down our spines. Following Emily's father's counsel, we heeded a swift departure the next morning, driven by the ominous aura left by the unknown visitor. Despite the lingering unease, the ensuing day unfolded into a sanctuary of joy as we immersed ourselves in the exhilaration of snowboarding, turning a potentially haunting night into a testament of resilience and shared adventure. The Sinister Sonata, a pizza delivery mystery. When I was 19, I found myself working at a local pizza place, a gig I picked up to cover daily expenses like food and gas. The job was pretty straightforward: take orders, box up the food, deliver it to the given address. It was a routine I had mastered, having done it countless times without any unusual incidents. The tips were decent, usually ranging from $3 to $5, depending on the distance. Occasionally, more generous folks would chip in $10 or more. This particular delivery, however, turned out to be unlike any other. The order was a simple one: a chicken parm hero and a regular slice. Smaller orders like this typically yielded smaller tips, but I had no control over which deliveries I took. As I made my way to the given address, I realized the house was on a dead-end block, and this block had a more rural feel than the rest of the neighborhood. An RV sat on the grass next to one house, with a small patch of woods nearby, giving the area an almost farm-like ambience. The address led me to a peculiar-looking house on a large property. It sat adjacent to what seemed to be an abandoned house with overgrown grass and shrubs. It was around 6:00 p.m., and darkness was settling in. At this time, people typically turned on their lights, but all the lights in the house were off. and I noticed the front door was cracked open. Walking towards the front door, I heard the eerie sound of a piano being played, seemingly a few rooms away. Knocking and ringing the bell yielded no response. Feeling uneasy about entering, I decided to walk around the property towards the back. The backyard was chaotic, with scattered items and even a broken, rusty chain-link fence lying in disarray. Approaching the back door, I knocked loudly, peering through the glass. All I could see was what appeared to be a messy storeroom. With no answer at the back door, I circled back to the front and called one of my colleagues at the pizzeria to confirm the address. After verifying that I was indeed at the correct location, I returned to the front door and pushed it open. As I entered, the eerie piano music persisted. I announced the arrival of the pizza, and the music momentarily stopped. Someone inside yelled, "Over here." The piano resumed, playing a simple yet creepy, repetitive tune. The house was dark, and I proceeded toward the sound of the music. The smell inside was musty and off-putting, and as I reached what could be considered a foyer, I felt increasingly uncomfortable. Standing halfway in, I announced my presence, but the music stopped abruptly, plunging the house into silence. Sensing something amiss, I called out again, revealing my proximity to the front door. This time, there was no response, no footsteps approaching. Just an unsettling stillness. The voice from another room finally spoke up, claiming difficulty in walking and requesting me to bring the pizza to the dining room. Uncertain about the situation, I cautiously walked through the living room, peering into the dining room. What I saw defied my expectations. No one was sitting at the piano, and the dining room appeared empty. Suspicious and wary, I quietly retraced my steps, closed the front door, and drove back to the pizzeria. Upon explaining the strange vibe inside the house, my boss and coworkers were understanding, especially when the alleged customer failed to call back. Reflecting on the incident, I couldn't fathom the logic behind attempting a robbery in one's own foreclosed house. The realization struck later that night when I discovered the house had been vacant for months, raising unsettling questions about what might have unfolded had I not followed my instincts and left the scene. I had unknowingly stepped into the shadowy realm between a potential robbery and a sinister prank, narrowly avoiding a situation that could have gone terribly wrong.